Hello, um, dear students, you are welcome to this special class. We have started off with the periodic table. Now we're going to continue from properties of elements and compound. We have talked about compounds to be a composition of different elements. So a compound is very different from the element from which it is made. So compound means you have, when you talk about compound, you're talking about having two elements, bonded together, two or more elements, not just two elements, two or more elements bonded together, okay? Two or more different atoms bonded together chemically. Particles are the same molecules, but different atoms in molecules. Like you have H2O, which is water, or NaCl, which is sodium chloride, or carbon dioxide. If you look at H2O, you have hydrogen and oxygen. If you look at sodium chloride, you have sodium and chlorine. If you look at carbon dioxide, you have carbon and oxygen. You get it? Okay, so that is the meaning of a compound. A compound has two different atoms bonded together to form a compound. Now, the property of the compound is different from the property of the elements or the atoms that make up the compound. Okay, so sodium is different from sodium chloride. Chlorine is different from sodium chloride. Okay, so that is a compound is a totally different, substance or material from the reactants or the composition that made it up. I believe you understand what that actually means. So the compound has totally different new properties. If you look at this two photograph, it shows two elements, sodium and chlorine. The third photograph shows the compound. This is the third photograph that is made when sodium and chlorine atoms bond together. This compound is called sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is not at all like either sodium or chlorine. So that is exactly what I explained to us. Okay, let's go to, we have these two questions which you are going to answer in your learner's book. Describe two ways in which sodium chloride is different from sodium. Describe two ways in which sodium chloride is different from chlorine. So it's a question you can solve like an homework. Okay, so let's look at naming compounds. How do we name compounds? Each compound has a chemical name. The chemical name usually tells you the element that the compound is made from. There are important rules to remember when naming compounds. And this is actually very important, and you will need it because of your exam. Now look at it from number one. This is number one. This one here. This is number one. Okay. Let's put it this way. Number one. Okay. If the compound contains a metal, then the name of the metal comes first in the name of the compound. So if a metal and a non-metal comes together, like sodium and chlorine, the name of the metal, sodium, comes first before the name of the other non-metal. Number two, look at that one. Very important, this number two. If the compound contains a non-metal, the name of the non-metal is usually changed. For example, the compound made from sodium, a metal, and chlorine, a non-metal, is not sodium chlorine, but sodium chloride. Okay? Number three, when two elements form a compound, the name often ends in IDE. When two elements form a compound, the name often ends in IDE. You will see more of this as we go ahead. Okay? So we have questions here. Which two elements are combined in sodium chloride? Of course, you know the answer. The answer is sodium and chlorine. Sodium and chlorine. See, so that is sodium and chlorine. This is sodium, and then this is chlorine. This is chlorine. Cl, NaCl. Don't mind my handwriting. So, which two elements are combined in hydrogen sulfide? If you look at it, hydrogen sulfide, which two elements? The two elements are hydrogen and sulfur. Hydrogen and sulfur, but the end of the name has been changed to IDE. IDE. So instead of writing hydrogen sulfur, you write hydrogen sulfide. So when you have a non-metal, being a part of a compound, it will change. The metal's name will come first, and then it will change to IDE when there's a non-metal. Okay. Which two elements are combined in magnesium oxide? This is magnesium and oxygen, but the oxygen has been changed to IDE, oxide. Don't forget. A student wrote this name for a compound made of calcium and sulfur. Sulfur calcium. What is wrong with this name? What is wrong with this name? Who can give me the answer? What is wrong with this name? If you know the answer, you can raise up your hand. I will pop the video will be paused so you can answer. But of course, if we are on the head puzzle anyway, we can just continue. Write the correct name for the compound. So if you're going to write this, what is going to be the correct? I'm not going to tell you, so we're going to discuss it in class. What is wrong with this name and how should it be written? Okay, so you can see some of the crystals of copper sulfate. Copper sulfate is a compound made up of copper, sulfur, and oxygen. So we'll talk more about all that later. We have some other questions here. Some compounds contain two different elements plus a third element like oxygen. These compounds often have names ending with ATE. For example, a compound of calcium, carbon, and oxygen is called calcium carbonate. Which three elements are combined in calcium nitrate? Which three elements are combined in magnesium carbonate? So you need to know what these names are. Which three elements are combined in lithium sulfate? So we'll discuss all of these in class, and if you know the answer now, you would answer it, or else you answer it on head puzzle. Sometimes the name of the compound tells you how many of each kind of atom are bonded. Okay, this is CO2. This is carbon dioxide. COO. COO means CO2. C and 2 oxygen. 1 carbon and 2 oxygen. This one is 1 carbon and 1 oxygen. This is carbon monoxide. Okay. So it's very easy. It's very easy. I believe it's very easy. So you get to know more of it. Carbon dioxide particles are made up of 1 carbon atom joined to 2 oxygen atoms. Di means 2. So carbon dioxide, which means 2 oxygen. Carbon monoxide, mono means 1. So carbon and 1 oxygen is carbon monoxide. Okay. I would like also to see the particle diagram. You're going to be using this a lot to understand and to present your, maybe if you're going to do a model or you're going to do a project, you're going to use a particle diagram. Particle diagrams, like those of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, show which atoms of which elements make up the particle. It is easy to decide if a substance is a compound by looking at the particle diagram. If there are different kinds of atoms bonded together, then it is a compound. If you have two different kinds or three different kinds of atoms bonded together, it is a compound. A compound, that's what you call a compound. Okay? A molecule of carbon dioxide is a compound, you can see. A molecule of water is also a compound. It has two different elements, two different atoms bonded together. A molecule of oxygen is not a compound because the two the two atoms are the same. A molecule of methane, CH4, methane, CH4, is a compound. So you can see carbon dioxide, water, and methane are all compounds because their particles are made up of different kinds of atoms. Oxygen is an element because the atom in the particles are both oxygen atoms. So you can see, so element makes up of the same atom, the same kind of atom. Okay, don't forget. So we're going to be learning how to use this formula. Using the formula, every compound has a chemical name. For example, the compound of sodium and chlorine is sodium chloride. Okay, some compounds also have an everyday name, like what people call them everyday. Like you can find them in your house, you can find them in the laboratory, you can find them, in different places, in companies, in industries. For example, sodium chloride is also known as common salt, the salt that we use to cook. See, every compound also has a formula. The formula contains the symbols of the elements that are bonded together in the compound. The table that we are looking at shows the chemical names and formula of 6 compounds. So let's look at them one by one. Look at it. Calcium oxide. It has calcium and O, which is calcium oxide. Oxide, see, not calcium oxygen, calcium oxide, because when it's like this, it has to be what? It's a non-metal, so it has to be what? IDE. The element will take up IDE. What the compound contains? One calcium atom bonded with one oxygen atom. Carbon dioxide, CO2, one carbon atom bonded with 2 oxygen atoms. Carbon monoxide, one carbon atom bonded with 1 oxygen atom. Hydrogen sulfide, H2S, 2 hydrogen atoms bonded with 1 sulfur atom. When you see H2, it means that 2 hydrogen atoms. If it is HS2, then it means 2 sulfur atoms. Calcium carbonate, 1 calcium atom, 1 carbon atom, and 3 oxygen atoms bonded together. So it's clear now. Sodium hydroxide, 1 atom of sodium, 1 atom of oxygen, and 1 atom of hydrogen bonded together. And then he said something here. He said, be very careful reading the symbols of the element. You do not want to confuse the symbol of carbon with the symbol of calcium. They're not the same. The little number written below and to the right of some symbols tells you how many atoms of each element are found in the particle of the compound. If there is no number, it means there is just one atom of that element. So they usually will not put 1, only from 2 upward. So we have more questions here in this page. So you will attempt all these questions as homework. So